Well, hello again, everyone. Welcome to another webcast that we're bringing you from Travel Weekly as part of our Roadmap to Recovery series. And that's very key because I've got Ben Bouldin here from Royal Caribbean with us. And Royal, you have just announced quite exciting news today that you're going to be basing a ship in Israel due to its success with their vaccination rollout program, Ben. Now, obviously, one could say, well, that's great for the Israelis. But is it therefore an indicator that you will look to move ships where, vaccines are being rolled out well? And could this be, encouraging news for the UK in time?
Yeah, thanks, Lucy, and thanks for the chance to talk to you this evening. As you rightly say, I think very exciting news for the Royal brand today. Now, we have obviously been working in Israel for many years. In fact, our international representative there has worked for us for over 30 years. So Israel's always been a market we've kept an eye on. But you're right, the way in which they have seized control of the COVID pandemic and really aggressively gone after the vaccination of their population has really facilitated the idea and the opportunity for us to cruise there. And we believe cruise there very successfully this summer. So we're delighted to have been able to put our sailings or announce the sailings today, should I say, and they will go on sale next Tuesday, the 9th of March. And we're very confident that we're going to get a huge amount of pickup. And the news and the noise, particularly as you say in Israel, has been fantastic. Obviously less of a story for the Brits. In fact, the Brits here are perhaps having to get over the fact that they won't be able to sail on Odyssey out of Rome this summer, as they perhaps would have liked to have done. And we've obviously had to take a number of calls from disappointed guests today on that regard. But we do think it's the right call for the brand right now, and a great opportunity for Odyssey of the Seas, our latest ship, to have a full summer.
Yeah, so, all right. Well, it is great. And let's come back in a second then about what it means for the UK. But just before we move to that, just explain to us briefly then, everybody that sails on Odyssey from Israel will have to be vaccinated. That's passengers and crew. Is that right?
Yeah, we're obviously, the population of Israel is expected to be vaccinated by the end of March, over 16. So at the moment, as we all know, there's no vaccinations of children. So children will be able to sail. We will put testing procedures in place. There's a lot that's got to happen between now and when we sail. And there's lots of details to be fleshed out. But the expectation is that we will have vaccinated crew and guests over the age of 16 by the time which we sail. And that's very much how we're planning.
All right. And you're planning to sail in June, is that right? June the 2nd?
Yes, June the 2nd.
And you make the point there, Ben, that this is really exciting news for you to be able to have a sailing for the summer. I mean, how important is that for your brand when you've obviously had to pause operations for so many months? I know you've got one ship in Singapore, but how important is it for you to get sailing again this summer?
I think it's really important for everyone. I mean, it's another step forward to kind of getting the whole fleet back. I mean, clearly, I'd love to be sitting here saying, do you know what? All 26 ships of the Royal brand will be back in June. I'd love to be saying that, but unfortunately, it's just not the reality right now, and it's very complicated discussions at government level around the world to try and find the right opportunities to come back. Obviously, the UK market and the UK audience would love to see us come back in Southampton, and we're very committed to doing so. We've got Anthem sitting just outside Poole Harbour at the moment, so we're ready. And we're really keen to come back and do something this summer. But again, what we have to do is now wait for this new roadmap that's going to come out on the 12th of April and see where that leads us. And obviously Clear and us as an organisation are working very hard to make sure that this exclusion to cruise that currently exists doesn't be on the 12th of April, and that we can find a way back alongside the rest of travel.
And are you confident of that? Because cruise wasn't mentioned in the initial roadmap announcement by Boris Johnson.
I'd like to be more confident, but I am confident that we will start to find ourselves treated on an equal par with the rest of travel. And I think that will open up the opportunity for some cruising this summer.
Okay. And then you point, obviously the Israel opportunity is due to the fact that the vaccine rollout has been so advanced. And actually, in the UK, we're doing pretty well on that. So does that give you as well some more reassurance that that cruising out of Southampton could be possible this summer then?
Yeah, I mean, it's important to stress that cruising is not reliant on vaccination. So our program in Singapore, there's no vaccination. For sure, the prevalence of COVID is also very low in Singapore. So again, it creates a safe environment. In Israel, there has been quite high prevalence and they've had a hell of a job with COVID-19, but they've managed to get on top of it and they've gone very heavy on this vaccination route and they're getting everybody vaccinated at pace and it's making a difference. And that's the key thing. If you take the UK, actually, the UK is faring pretty well. I think we're all quite pleasantly surprised as citizens of the UK that the vaccination program is going quite well. We all know people now, probably not too far away from us in age, who've had the vaccination, and we've got peers and colleagues and friends who have been vaccinated now. So it's a real thing. And for sure, I think the science will tell us how effective it ends up being. But the early signs are, and particularly from the science we're seeing in the markets where vaccinations have been swift, we're seeing a real material difference in the amount of COVID that we're seeing in the marketplace. So I'm confident that the UK can get beyond this COVID piece as the prevalence of the vaccine takes hold. And then I think hopefully it facilitates a strong return to service and operations here. And of course, what we need to be able to do from here is we also need to be able to travel internationally, because we can all do domestic cruising for a while, but it's probably got limited appeal. And what we need to do is be able to go and sail to other countries. And that's where we're kind of reliant on their handling of their COVID situations as well. And of course, every market and every country has got a slightly different approach. But I do think vaccinations will be positive and it will provide opportunities.
And presumably the willingness of the governments, to get cruising happening from to their destinations, from their destinations is important. I mean, I noticed in the press release you put out today, around your new Israel program, that was, supported by comments from the Israeli Tourism Board. They're very keen that you're there. They're delighted that you're going to be sailing. Are you getting that level of support in the UK? You mentioned just there that you'd like to be more confident in the government. You're hopeful, but you would like to be more confident. So do you feel you're getting as much support as you'd like?
I think that we have a maritime minister who's been very supportive and particularly working very closely with the Clear Steering Group. So I have confidence in his abilities and the work he's doing. It's a tough environment because the UK's had real challenges with this virus. And we have to recognise that we are not the only part of the economy that's taking a hit here. I mean, we are still in lockdown right now and will be right through the next couple of months. So it's a very difficult dynamic to suddenly start promoting cruise at a time when we're all sort of locked down. So I do understand the challenges, but I think the key thing is it takes 12 to 16 weeks really to start an industry like cruise up again. And I think all we really want is to have a much clearer roadmap and a signposting of kind of how we might parallel path our return with the return of domestic tourism and hospitality in the UK. And that's what I'm personally looking for a little bit more clarity on from the government. Okay. You're right. The Prime Minister himself put out tweets this morning about how delighted he was about the program starting in Israel. And equally, I would say the Greek and Cypriot governments have been hugely supportive of the program we've been talking to them about. So I know cruise is important to the UK government, and I think that will bear through in time. I think it would just be nicer to have a more transparent roadmap around our return.
Okay, all right. And if, also a roadmap's really important for travel agents selling cruise. You were saying it's difficult to be promoting it at the moment, but yet you are, like all cruise lines, wanting travel agents to be promoting cruises, I guess, perhaps for further out. But what would be your advice then to agents? You mentioned there will be some who'll be disappointed because they were hoping to sell customers on Odyssey out of Rome. Odyssey was coming to the UK as well for a couple of days as well. So agents would have, in normal circumstances, I'm sure you would have invited them down to see Odyssey, etc. So what would be your message to the trade in the UK?
I think what I would say is that we absolutely recognise the value of the trade and the importance of the trade, and we sympathise with the challenge they've got right now. We're having to be nimble, and they're having to be nimble too, because there's so many uncertain things. I think many cruise lines have cancelled sailings right through to the end of May now, some through to the end of June. And that's obviously not what any cruise line wants to be doing. And we're exactly the same. I think every cruise company in the UK is hoping that the current roadmap that Boris is talking about provides an avenue for at least domestic cruising to resume May, June time. And then hopefully we can start to pick up the season that we'd all planned to have, perhaps a few weeks later during the summer. And that's what we're kind of clinging to here. In the meantime, I think agents should feel confidence in selling 22. I know some brands are selling into 23. And there's some really strong performances from the trade out there. And there's lots of demand. And even since Boris's roadmap last Monday, or I forget it, Monday or Tuesday, there has been a significant tick up in demand from consumers. So plenty of people looking forward to a holiday for sure.
So what does, you keep talking about when you first come back, it will be domestic cruising only, but then you're saying that has a bit of a shelf life and you'll need to move on fairly quickly from that. So what does that look like for Royal Caribbean? You say you've got Anthem sitting outside Poole Harbour. Can you bring her back into Southampton and just sail around Britain? What will you do if given the green light?
Well, we're looking at lots of options, and we need to comply with what the government wants us to do. I think all cruise lines are probably going to have to do some sort of test cruise. And we've talked about the requirement for these test cruises previously, whether that's cruises to nowhere or whether it's cruises to another UK port. I think there'll be some of those. I then think domestic cruising is probably looks and feels like the most likely opportunity in the short term based on the rhetoric we've had. Clearly that we can all go around the UK, but I don't think Royal Caribbean for sure is not a cruise line that wants to do that for too long because our ships are too large.
Your ships are too large, I would think, to get into too many ports. So our
choices are quite limited. So we're keen to know when we can start to move to, can we sail to Spain? Can we sail to Portugal, etc.? That then opens things up for us. And of course, it's not that we don't mind taking a bit of a punt and getting something up and running, but we need to know once we've started, there's so much cost involved in restarting that cruise program. We need to know we can continue it credibly. What we don't want to be in is this sort of stop-start pattern. We've got to have a really clear plan of how we're going to tackle the full season. And that's what we're working on at the moment.
All right. Okay. Just then, and just to pick up on something else you just said, Ben, about the uptick in demand that you saw. We've seen some crazy percentage increases. I mean, like 1,000% increase, 650% increase. What kind of demand or levels did you see? Were they just sort of like short-lived and the first couple of days after that announcement? Has it been sustained through to this week? Did you have a good weekend? What are people booking? Which season and which destination?
So in terms of I've seen the same crazy stats you've seen, about 500% up, 400% up. I guess it all depends on what your base is.
I know, quite. No one's given us actual numbers.
Yeah, for us, we've seen about a 30 to 40% uptick in demand since last Monday, and over the weekend that continued. So, and that's proven to be fairly consistent day over day. We've seen that, and we've seen it across our brands. So I'm very comfortable that that's kind of a fairly robust figure from our perspective. In terms of what they're booking, Q4 is proving quite popular, particularly our Barbados program that we launched. I think lots of for that. And then we're seeing some demand for Caribbean through Q1, Q2, but then actually as we get into next summer, lots of demand for Anthem. And obviously, having had the cancellation of Odyssey today, we've got a number of people rebooking Odyssey, hoping that summer 22 ends up being her debut in Rome now.
Okay, so that's your plan. You would keep her sailing out of Haifa for the summer.
Yeah, this summer she'll be in Haifa. Then she goes to Florida, which was always the plan.
Yeah.
And actually, she's going to be named in Florida in November. She'll do a Caribbean winter, and then she will come over next May and do the Rome season that we had always planned on her doing.
Are you gonna let her do a little detour to Southampton so we can at least see her?
I can't promise that, but I'm sure we'll do something in Rome so we can let a few people see her there. So we'll do what we can. There's not going to be a shortage of events for us to engage the travel trade with when we get out of this. I know that the travel industry can't survive without an event, and trust me, I've missed them too. But for sure, when we bring ships back into service, we will have a very robust program whereby we can re-engage our trade partners, not only on the programs that we're launching, but also all of our protocols and things that we want to share with them, because we've got lots to talk to them about. So there'll be lots of opportunities.
All right. Well, we're really excited that you're going to get sailing again. As you say, it's exciting for you as a brand. It's exciting for the industry. Let's hope it is a precursor to, more ships getting back into service. So thank you for your time, Ben. We wish you best of luck with that.
Thank you, Lucy.